good people? I am being true. That is Ryan Smitty Smith. This is episode 31 of Winning the Division, where you either end the division or you win the division. Our guest tonight, I'm gonna do my this is football royalty. Got a chance to play with this man about as great a receiver I can get. Drafted in the 97 fourth round, 98th overall, played for the Oilers, the Titans, the Ravens, the Jets, and the Texans. First team All-Pro in 2000, two-time Pro Bowl in 2000 and 2003, NFL punt return leader 2000, second team All Big Ten, 943 catches, 12,061 yards, 66 touchdowns, 5,086 yards, 3 touchdowns. A part of the 10,000 club, 15,000 all-purpose club. The only player, I did not know this, in NFL history, right, to have 10,000 yards receiving and 5,000 yards, 5,000 yard return yards. The great Derrick Mason, better known as D Mace. What's going on with you today, D Mace?
Hey, what's going on, man? How you been?
I've been good. I mean, and now I know you're doing your broadcasting thing on 102.5, the game up there in Nashville. I mean, I know you in the broadcasting game now, but this is a perfect segue for what we're doing. D Mace, I think you might have retired too early, man. These receivers getting quarterback money. And when you look at T. Higgins, you go ahead.
He's just laughing at the
these
money.
guys, nowadays, they've earned every they've earned every right, man, to get the money that they're getting. It was because of guys like myself, and then even further back, because of guys, like Jerry Rice and guys like Michael Irvin and all those greats that came before me that set the tone for what guys are making now. So it's all it's truly been a trickle down effect, where it started with nothing, in regards to how these guys are getting paid, and look where they're at now. I don't think we would have ever saw or thought that anybody outside of a quarterback would be making 20, 30, $40 million per year. But that's where we're at. The NFL is a big business. They're making a lot of money, huge contract. So the players did a wonderful job at negotiating, through collective bargaining. You know all about that, Troop. More than their share of the piece of the pie, because without the players, the league doesn't thrive. So kudos to both of the Cincinnati receivers and guys that are going to get paid moving forward.
Well, that begs the question. I mean, you obviously Jamar Chase. I mean, welcome to Jamar Chase Bank and Trust. Well, what he just got. Who's gonna be the guy? Who's gonna be the receiver? So you telling me we on the verge of seeing a $200 million receiver?
Yeah, it's getting there. That may come maybe in the next 10 years. Once the new collective bargaining, another collective bargaining is done. Obviously, this one lasts for another, I think, 8 to 10 years. So when they're getting close to that, the money is going to be larger. I think the game's going to be bigger, because of technology, and I think the game is going to be global. I think you're going to have teams overseas in a matter of 10 years, so greater than what it is. And you may just see it. I wouldn't put. We never thought we would see a $300 million quarterback. We got 2 of them. And Josh Allen just signed his big deal, and then obviously Patrick Mahomes, he signed his deal a few years ago, $350 million for 10 years. So you will see that $200 million wide receiver.
And even with, I mean, I would be remiss. I mean, so many. I mean, D Mays, the one thing about you that stood out when I played with you was I always hear Steve Smith say, "Man, I had a PhD in running routes and getting open." To me, that's what you were. Put you in the slot, couldn't deal with you. Put you on the outside, couldn't deal with you. Bring you in motion, couldn't deal with you. What was it about when did it all click for you? Obviously, you were a receiver starting there, but at what point was it not disrespectful to the guy covering you, but in your mind, dude, I know these coverages, I know what they're trying to do. At what point did the game slow down to you? Because I'm seeing you catching 9 routes on the sideline. That's the hardest catch in football. You ain't got 2 feet, and you catching it getting two. At what point, D Mace, for you did you say? I mean, nothing against those guys. I saw the battles with you and Samari, but nothing against these guys. At what point did you say, "Hey, man, I just understand what they're trying to do to me. I'm gonna do whoever's on the other side of it."
I think it was after my third year, because before that, I was relegated to just doing special teams. And listen, that's cool, but it comes a point where there's something within you, all true competitor, there's something within you that you want more. And it was that third year where I just wanted more. So just went out there and continued to compete. You know how it all went down. Kevin gets injured my fourth year. And away we go. And the good thing about that was I had Neil O'Donnell. And Neil O'Donnell would say to me in the practice, hey, Mace, just get open. I know what the route calls for, run the route, but if I hadn't thrown it yet, find a way, get open. And I mastered that between he and I. And then when I started to play with Steve, he and I mastered that. And I remember Heimerdinger just telling me, like, man, listen, I know how I draw it up. Run it how I draw it up. But if it breaks down, just be a football player, man. And that stuck with me. And I think it was after that Giants game when I became a full-time starter, that Giants game at home, where I ended up catching the first touchdown of that year, man. After that, everything just seemed to click. I felt a lot more comfortable in what I was doing. I felt that I had the offense down packed. And then for me, it was just being able to read defenses on a run. And once I figured that out after my fourth year, man, I mean, the sky was the limit. I didn't think anyone could stop me. The only person that could stop me was the person not be throwing me the ball and myself at times. But other than that, I just felt if I go out there, then it's going to be very hard for you to guard me 1-on-1, game in and game out.
Well, the only DB, you probably don't remember this. The only DB, I don't know if you did this before games. I don't know if it was a psychological thing. The only DB I've ever heard seen you go up to. When my fifth year, I go to the Raiders. They got Nnamdi Asomugha, and this is the year this is 2008. This is when he's Nnamdi. This is when can't nobody get open. This is his year. I saw you.
Yes.
I'm with the Raiders, and I'm with the Raiders. We come to the Ravens. And I saw you come up to him before the game. I don't know if it was sportsmanship. I said, you look at him and say, hey, man, you going to take it easy today, ain't you? Like, you're going to take it easy. Because now he's long, 6'2", long arms. Was there a D Mace for you that you said, dude, this boy right here, I got to bring my A game when I went up against this DB?
I think Namdi was one of those guys, not because, you know, I didn't think I was faster than him in anything, but you spelled it out. He had these long arms at being 6'2". And Samari was the same way. Samari was 5'11", 6 foot, but he had long arms like a 6'2", 6'3" corner. And with guys like that, man, it's very difficult to get off the line of scrimmage, especially back in when you can basically grab a defender and you didn't have to let him go. You can't do that in today's football. You got to let him go. Matter of fact, you can't even grab him. But he gave me trouble until I figured him out as a player. Once I figured him out as a player, and it wasn't until he went to Philadelphia, that's when I figured him out as a player. And I was able to take advantage of his strength, which was his long arms and his long frame. I used that against him. I used my quickness to beat him at times. But he still got he held his own for the most part. And Ty Law was another one, man, that I had nothing but mad respect for Ty Law when he was in New England. I played against him when I was in college for a year. My freshman year, he was a senior, and then running into him in the NFL. That guy was just tough. He was just one of those guys that, no matter what, he was in phase with you. And he knew how to read routes. He knew how to read, receivers' tendency. So those two guys really gave me fit. But it wasn't until I never figured Tyler out. Ty Law retired before I figured him out, but I figured out now the Asamoah.
D-Mace, I'm going to bring you back to 2003. The Carolina Panthers played the Tennessee Titans in Charlotte. You had 2 catches for 39 yards in this particular game, but it was 37-17. We got run out of the building by the Tennessee Titans this day. The first kickoff, we fumbled the kickoff. We got the ball first. We fumbled the kickoff, and the Panthers gave Titans the ball to start this game, and it was just a rout from there. So I'm going to mention 2 questions for you, one on each side of the ball. So we'll start with that game in 2003. Do you remember that game in Charlotte, by the one I'm referencing, 37-17 over the Panthers? You had 2 catches.
Yes, I know. I didn't do my. I think Drew Bennett had a big game.
Yes, he did. 4 catches for 97 yards in the
touchdown. Yes, he had a big game. Yes. See, sometimes that's what happens, It's you can't, even though you may go out there and there's a game plan devised for you to get the ball. They're playing defense too, and they're going to try to make sure you don't get the ball. And Carolina did a good job at making sure the attention was geared toward me, but that allowed a guy like Drew Bennett to go off. And that's what number 1 receivers are supposed to do. When everyone's keying on you, they leave someone else open. And when you have somebody like Drew that's 6'5", and Drew was a hell of a player, he can take advantage of those one-on-one coverages. So I may not have filled up the box scores, but we still end up, getting what we need to get done. Drew had a great game, and some of it was because of they geared their defense toward me, and he was able to take advantage of that.
Yeah. And speaking of that defensive side of the ball, one of my favorite Panthers of all time, personally, Julius Peppers. Did you ever get a chance to block him? Did you try to block him? How was it playing with a guy like Julius? Just went into the hall last year. Guy is you talk about someone who's built in the lab. He was built in the lab, and he was just different than those cats out there.
To answer your question, no and no. Hey, that guy was a freak of nature. You thought Javon Curse was a freak. Julius Peppers, who, like you said, who's now in the Hall of Fame, he was truly one of those guys that only come around, once every 10 years. You look at Myles Garrett now. Myles Garrett, that was Julius Peppers back when he came into the NFL. He was Myles Garrett, and he was dominating like Myles Garrett. So did I ever block him or want to go near him to block him? No and no.
Yeah. A receiver that on the Panthers that I followed over the years that you're probably familiar with, he personally reminds me of your game specifically. Not the flashiest guy, but did his job very well. And it was just a consistent all-around player and could just make people miss. And he still holds the record for the longest catch in Super Bowl history. That would be Muhsin Muhammad down in Carolina, playing with Steve Smith. But he is someone who reminds me of your game. And so just like yourself, I thought he was one of the more consistent receivers throughout the league and very underrated.
Well, I mean, he would be. He and I played together college. We played under the same system. He got recruited a year before I did at Michigan State.
Yep.
And moved to 6. I was happy for him. And then watching how his career went. Moose was a beast, man. He doesn't get the recognition that he truly deserves, I don't believe. This is a guy that has I think he has over 12,000 yards or close to it. He led the NFL in receiving yards one year, or touchdowns, or both, I believe. And, he was one of those big, physical, fast receivers back in the day that no one really wanted to challenge because of his physicality. That was one guy. You thought DK Metcalf was physical? Watch Muhsin Muhammad. Play against him. That guy was physical at 6'2", 6'3", 220 pounds, but can run like a deer.
Yeah, that was a great connection with for the listeners who may not know. Yeah, you and Muhammad both went to Michigan State. That was gonna be my next bringing that up full circle. But you answered my question there. Time for the listeners who may not have known that stuff. Go ahead, Ben.
Yeah, it was great. It was great playing with Moose. Like I said, he got to Michigan State a year before I did. He and I were, receiving mates. My sophomore and junior year. He was the flanker and I was the split end. My last 2 years, well, his last 2 years, my sophomore and junior year. So, but I mean, how he balled in the NFL is how he was balling at Michigan State.
And D Mace, you mentioned Moose, and obviously you and him were a tandem in Michigan State. We talk about T. Higgins, Jamar Chase, Devonta Smith, AJ Brown. Obviously you got Puka now to go along. He got Devontae Adams out there with him to go along with Tutu Atwell. How important is it to have a number two? Because you mentioned, I mentioned you. Drew Bennett would tell me, he'll say, listen, there is no player that I will ever appreciate more than D Mace. That boy will take that safety in that corner, they're gone. Whatever side D Mace is, they're gone. How important is it for a number one to be a true number one, but to have that number two that if they taking you away, you got a guy that can still go out there and put up numbers and help the team, help the offense stay in rhythm?
I think it's very important, especially in today's football, because we all know if you have a top flight number one guy, the defenses are going to try to do everything they possibly can to throw you off rhythm with the quarterback. It's very imperative that you have a second guy that the quarterback can go to, because if you don't, then your offensive passing game will be stagnant. And listen, even with having Drew, even having Kevin Dyson for a bit, at times we did get stagnant, but it didn't happen too often, because when they tried to gear towards stopping me, that's when Kevin Dyson and Drew Bennett would show up on the scene and they would play lights out. Or if they had showed, too much attention to Drew or to Kevin, that's when I would, go out there and be the number one receiver that I was. So it's very imperative if you're going to have a consistent high-powered offense, you got to have a number one and number two wide receiver.
I don't want to necessarily talk about the draft here for a while. But we can. You're the guest here. You can steer however you want. But Titans, who you know a thing or two about, have the number one pick in this upcoming draft in April. Have you seen a little bit of Cam Ward from Miami? That's the rumor that they might be taking him number one. Are you a fan of his game? And if he were to be drafted by the Titans number one, what do you think he would add there in Nashville?
Yeah, I've watched Cam play a few times. I've watched Shador Sanders play more, because it seemed like Colorado was on television every week. But
Yeah.
I have seen Cam Ward. He has a tremendous upside. A lot of people sort of, compare him to Steve McNair somewhat. With his ability to throw the football, his ability to get outside the pocket when he needs to, and find open receiver, the toughness that he has. So, whether the Titans draft him at number one or not, they need a quarterback. But all the signs are pointed to them taking a quarterback number one, and all the signs point to them taking Cam Ward. But as Ben know, man, right now it's Cam Ward. But come draft today, somebody can offer a haul and you can move out of that number one spot, or something may happen and you draft another individual. But I think the moves that the Titans are making with the new GM, the signs do point toward them drafting a quarterback, and more than likely Cam Ward.
And D Mace, you mentioned you've seen a lot of Cam Ward, seen a lot of Shador Sanders. They got this other younger from Colorado named Travis Hunter. I mean, about as athletic as you can be. He's gonna come in. He's gonna play corner. He's gonna play corner. He's gonna be more impactful. This notion of him wanting to play, he wanted every down on offense, every down on defense. Please, he's athletic. Please tell the listening public, playing every down at corner is one thing. Every down at receiver, when you talking about running through double teams, please tell the young man we love him, but the most athletic player in the world ain't got that much juice to play every snap on offense and defense.
Yeah, it's very difficult to play both sides of the ball, you know, playing 60 plays on offense and turn right back around and play 60 plays on defense. In college, you're capable of doing it. Why? Because really, if you're the best athlete out there, they're going to spread you wide, and they may not throw to your side if you're on the defensive side of the ball. Then on the offensive side of the ball, man, you're throwing it to so many different people that a lot of times you catch a hitch route, you take it up, you take it 60 yards, which he has done, or you catch a curl route. Nobody's playing press, so that you run off the line of scrimmage scot free. So it's not as tasking on your body at the college level. But once you take that step up to the professional level, that's when things change. And I think people that haven't played the game think it's possible to do it. They always point at Deion Sanders. And when I tell them this, listen, Deion Sanders' best season playing receiver was 400 yards. That was his best season. He wasn't playing receiver every down. As a matter of fact, it wasn't until he got to Dallas that he played more than usual at the receiver position. So, and it was that 1 year. So it's very hard to play both positions in a National Football League because, man, listen, there's uh, there's probably about 200 coverages he got to know on defense, and there's about 200 or 300 pass plays he need to know on offense. And you don't need to be exerting yourself because if you want to have a long career in this league, man, you need to specialize in one thing and one thing only. And if they ask you to do those other things every so often, then yeah, he will be able to do them. But to ask him to play 60 plays on defense and oh, by the way, turn right back around and play 60 plays on offense, that is physically impossible for someone to do that for 17 plus games.
Is there a receiver today in today's game that reminds you of yourself? When you just see them playing, you just flash back to your time in the league and someone that it just feels like that's you running out there if you were playing in this era of the National Football League.
Oh man, I, these guys are a lot different. And when I mean different, I don't mean it in a bad way. I mean in a really good way. These guys are bigger, stronger, faster. They know a lot more than what we ever did. These guys have been groomed to play the position at a young age. And they're going to all these camps to learn all these different things that we just didn't have. So when I look at individuals in today's game, it's hard to sort of pinpoint one guy that I think remind myself of me. Uh, Now I can point to different guys. This guy has this attribute, this guy has this, but I don't think there's necessarily one guy that reminds me of myself. Now, the guy no slight to Jamar Chase, those like to Jefferson, and those guys, Tariq Hill, but Mike Evans. The one thing that I like about Mike Evans is that he has been the most consistent receiver outside of Jerry Rice in the National Football League. Just go look at the numbers. The numbers will bear it. For 10 years, he's averaged over 1,000 yards. He's had multiple double-digit touchdowns in a season. The one thing that he needs to get better at is being available. But for the most part, he is. So when I look at guys that I truly like in this game, the guy that tops that list is Mike Evans because of his durability, and he plays the game the right way, man. He's not flashy. He goes out there and get the job done, and when he needs to be physical and get in your face, he'll be physical and get in your face. But if he needs to play a finesse game, he'll do that too. So he tops my list as guys that I really like in the game.
I'll give you another one that I just thought of just off my top of my head, who is not flashy, but he's the number one receiver for his current team, and he does things the right way, is Amon-Ra St. Brown. And he has a list of all the receivers
Yes.
that went before him. And he says that before every game, all the receivers that went before him,
Yeah.
and remind him how the chip that's on his shoulder. That's another guy that I think plays similar to you as well.
Yeah, St. Brown, I love his game. I love that he has that chip on his shoulder because you can see it in his play. He's out there. He's physical. He's aggressive, but he's also smart. He finds holes in the defense. He knows how to read coverages on a run, and when he gets the ball in his hands, he makes things happen. And the Lions had, they found a gem in St. Brown, because before that, man, they had been looking for a receiver once Megatron retired. They had been looking for that guy that could be the next great Detroit Lion receiver, and they found him. And St. Brown has done nothing but go out there and perform at a high level.
Now, D Mace, I mean, the one thing that about you that I heard receivers say this. I used to ask receivers around the league. I would say, "Man, what do you want to end your career as?" They said, "I want to end my career on the outside." Because when we played,
Mhm.
if once you lose a step, they're gonna move you to the slot. I done lost a step. He can still play, but I got D Mace. You never went to the slot. Now they might have moved you around, but talk about the fact that once you became a starter, you never went to the backup role and you never went to the inside. That's a skill set that the greatest receiver, T.O. had to go to the inside at a certain point when he went to Cincinnati. And I know he must go to his career there. And talk about the fact that your career never got to the point where you couldn't get open in that phone booth out there outside. Because listen, you make money on the inside, you make big money out there with them numbers. You and the number one DB out there.
Yeah, that's where the real money comes, where you are a bona fide outside receiver, but that's all how I always saw myself, as a number one receiver on the outside that can also go on the inside. I was a versatile receiver. If you needed me to go inside to play with the big boys, then I can go and play with the big boys. If you needed me to play outside with the speed, I can do that. And for my 8 years here, I did both. I played outside predominantly on third down. I went inside, because that's how Hyman Dingle wanted to do his offense, where he wanted to put his best playmaker on third down in a slot, and I was able to do that. But then I went to Baltimore. I was strictly an outside guy. I prided myself on that. I didn't want to, coach to put me in a box and tell me, well, you're only a slot guy, so let's just no, man. No, I can beat anybody anywhere on the field, whether it be inside or outside. And I think after a while, I proved that. So it was like, okay, we could put him inside if we want to, but he's an outside guy. And I was able to thrive on that.
Well, D Mace, it's been so good to have you here on Winning the Division, episode 31. As we kind of wind down our time with you tonight, we wanted to kind of play a lightning round of just some questions. We'll fire it back at you. Each of us will just fire something at you, and just kind of the first thing that comes to your mind. It's going to be just random topics that will just come to mind, and you can just kind of fire back. So I'll go ahead and start with the first one.
All right.
So this past summer, I got to be part of something called the soccer tournament. I don't know if you're familiar with that. It's here in North Carolina every June. And I got to cross paths with another receiver who wore number 85, Chad Ochocinco, or Chad Johnson, rather. So I got to spend some time with him this summer. What do you remember about playing? I know you never played against him specifically, obviously, because you played against the defense. But do you remember any memorable games against him and the Bengals? And what was your thoughts on him, as a player when you in your time in the league?
Now say the name again. You cut out.
Oh, sorry. Chad Johnson, Chad Ochocinco. Did you cross paths with him in
What
your
was the
time in the
name?
league? Chad Johnson,
What
Chad
player
Ochocinco.
were you talking about? I didn't hear. Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, okay. Yes, because he was a lot, he was on the offensive side of the ball. But is that you watch the receiver position and listen, I'm not afraid to say this. There were some things that I saw that he was doing very well. His release off the line of scrimmage, I think he had one of the quickest releases off the line of scrimmage that I ever seen. So I would try to mirror my game somewhat, take a little bit of what he did and implement it in my game, just like I take a little bit of what Kevin Dyson did and implemented in our game, or Steve Smith, guys that I looked at and thought they were at the top of their game. I took a little bit from them implemented in my game and enhanced it. So I enjoyed watching Chad play outside of them playing us, but just watching him, yeah, I enjoyed watching Chad. He was one of the Mhm.
All right. Can you hear me, D Mace?
You got me, guys?
Yeah, I got you.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we got you.
Okay.
D
Yeah.
Mace,
So yeah.
D Mace, I gotta ask you this. This was a little bit before my time with the Titans, but I heard some stuff.
Uh-huh.
What's up with you and Joey Porter, man? What's up with you and Joey Porter? I heard. I mean, because I got the more calm down. I got the more calm down. D Mace, he don't want no problems. But I heard you and number 55 for Pittsburgh used to have some words out there, man.
Of course, man. You know how it is when you play Pittsburgh, man. It's one of those drag out, knockout type games, man. Bring your bat and your chain, your knife, anything, brass knuckles, whatever it is, because it's gonna be that type of game when you go up against Pittsburgh. And Joey Porter was he I think he epitomized who the Pittsburgh Steelers were. They were a tough, physical, hard-nosed, smart team, and he played that way. But he and I will always go back and forth. And there was an incident that happened to him off the field, which was unfortunate for him. Um, and now that I look back on it, whenever I talk about it, man, I feel bad that I even, said what I said. So he and I are going at it back and forth, and he just won't shut his mouth. I don't know if we were winning a game or losing a game, but he and I were going back and forth, and it's a timeout, and we're in a huddle, and he and I just going back and forth. And I said, man, I said, what did I say to him? I said, see, that's the reason you got shot because you didn't shut your mouth. And the minute I said it, I'm like, oh, why did I say that? So then he went up to B Hop and was like, man, why your boy had to say that about me, man? That was taking it too far. And he was right. I shouldn't have took it that far. I should have left it alone. But that's what happens when you're playing against the Pittsburgh Steelers. They bring out the best and the worst in you. And so that was one of those moments that, at the time it was like, okay, I got him. But then once I thought about it, I'm like, man, I shouldn't have said that. But you don't apologize when you're
Yeah.
playing against the Pittsburgh Steelers. You don't apologize. You just go about your business, and deal with it later. So that was one of those things that I was not proud of on a football field.
You played for a variety of teams, most notably the Titans, the Ravens, and then you had a little cup of coffee at the end of the year of your career with the Texans and the Jets, among others. You don't have to answer this question if you don't want to. If you were playing today and you could not choose any of the teams that you've played for, is there a team that sticks out that you would have liked to play for had you been in the league right now?
Mm.
Like a city, maybe where a team's located?
Man, I would, I would love to, and I would love to play with Lamar for one, but I played with Baltimore, so I can't do that. Uh, Um, somebody like Patrick Mahomes, I would love to play for Kansas City. Um, Miami with Tua Tagovailoa. Uh, would have loved to play with Jalen Hurts in Philadelphia. So guys like that, Buffalo with Josh Allen. But I think one guy, I think it would be he's unbelievable. I like to play with a guy like that. That's it. That's saying if I couldn't play with Lamar or I couldn't play back here or with the other two teams that I played for, then yes, it would be the Cincinnati Bengals and Joe Burrow.
All right.
Good answer.
Yeah. All right, D Mace. I gotta ask. I gotta ask D Mace. You like you said, you can get up on the inside, get up on the outside. This is for the game though. It's we up by one, and we got to get a first down, and we ain't run. I ain't play with Eddie George. We ain't finna run the ball. We finna throw it. What route do you want? Because Because the one thing about you, D-Mace, was, and it took me a long time to realize this. When Mac used to call plays, it never dawned on me. He's calling stuff for D-Mace. Like, I know what D-Mace going to be. Like, I know where he's going to be. It took me a little, I said, are they making awkward? Because he looking at us in the huddle, but he's looking at you like, D-Mace, I got you, man. Like, I know what this is. What is the route that, Mac, may he rest in peace, what is the route when we got to have it that Matt gonna call? You don't even got to go to the huddle. You can stick your head in the huddle and go, yeah, I already know what's coming. What was that route that you said, I don't care if it's Deion, Champ, Bailey, Darrell, Reeves, Ty Law, they got to get this work on this route?
It would be two routes. One, it would be a comeback. I didn't think if you're playing me man to man, one-on-one, and you have any help over the top, there was no way on God's green earth you were going to stop me on a comeback, especially if it was a gotta have it type of moment. Ask Woodson about that comeback in college that I ran on him when we needed to have a first down to keep that drive going on 4th and like 15, and I got 16 yards on a comeback. So that would be one. And then a non-stop. The nine-stop, if it's ran correctly, is the unstoppable route when if someone's playing you man to man, because you gotta honor the deep speed. And if you honor the deep speed, I was so good at just stopping on a dime. And if the quarterback throws it at the back of my head, you have no chance whatsoever.
Yeah. Last one from me. This is going to be kind of off the cuff here. We've had a variety of guests on this podcast who have just given us kind of a behind the scenes stories of just from their time in the league. Is there anything that is appropriate for a podcast, obviously, that you can just tell our listeners for your time in the league, just a good story, a good laugh, or just a really memorable story that just kind of sticks out in your mind? That can be from your time with Ben in Tennessee. It could be Baltimore, wherever you want to go.
I think, I had great times both here in Nashville as well as there in Baltimore. And I think both of them, serve this purpose. But the moments that I remember the most a lot of times it wasn't even on the football field. A lot of times it was in a locker room. Troop knows, when you have some time, especially during camp, man, you're playing games in a locker room, just chopping it up with the fellas and just having a good old time, man, and just having that bonding time that you need as a team. I think those moments, whether it be, in Nashville or in Baltimore, those are the moments that you truly cherish, man. There are some great things that you do on the field and games that you win, and you may win the Super Bowl, you may not. But I think the moments that you really truly think about after it's all said and done is the moments in the locker room with the fellas, or the moments on the practice field and not necessarily in the game.
Yeah.
Hold on, Smitty. Before I let D-Mace out of here, this is the one that stands out to me. I only had D-Mace for a year. We got Mike Waddell. He's the fastest player in the league, probably, when we get drafted. Then we got Rich Gardner out of Penn State. I remember we out there with the rookies. We think we doing it. Then the vets come. There go D-Mace. There go Samara. There go D-Mace. There go Samara. So finally, we go, hey, Mike, Rich, man, why don't y'all go with D-Mace? He goes, D-Mace ain't finna take our confidence, man. Like, D-Mace is the type of dude, he like, listen, man, I love y'all boys. Y'all think it's gonna work out. I love you. Listen, I love y'all, man. I love y'all. But it's like, and to me, I respected that so much about you, D-Mace. And listen, I don't mean no disrespect. Samari Roll is a Pro Bowler. Have y'all seen us go up against each other? Okay. So what you think? Nothing against you. What you think we do? Love you, Mike. Love you, Rich. But I only go up against Samara to get a real look. So that is my, and outside of the fact that D-Mace let me come on his radio show when my rookie year, right after the Minnesota game, when D-Mace didn't know, I had no backups that game. Shad Meyer had his appendix taken out the night before the game, and EK was out. So I don't remember a lot about the Minnesota game outside of the fact that I couldn't hear anything. I'm just out there And D-Mace, I just remember after the game, D-Mace said, "Boy, you did good, but I want you to come do my radio show in the Hickory Hollow Mall." I said, "Man, D-Mace, you somebody to me." But I will say this. I will say this. D-Mace is the only player in NFL history. In NFL history now, when we talk about, because people talk about, man, everybody want to have, listen, man, the 15,000 yard club, right? The only player in NFL hits over 10,000 receiving yards, over 5,000 return yards. The fighting pride, I don't know if they call it, of Michigan State. If you ever met a player from Michigan State, don't mention that other team in Ann Arbor. They don't acknowledge them. I don't know them. Don't talk to me about them. It's about Michigan State. People like Musa Muhammad, and listen, D-Mace, I appreciate you taking the time, man. I watch you a lot, listen to you a lot on 102.5 The Fan. I think you work with Brent Doherty up to tell Brent I said what's up, and we appreciate you taking the time, man.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they Hut comes on the show, and we do a wonderful job over at 102.5. And our show comes on from 11 to 2. It's called DVD. D-Mace, Vingen, and Donick. And we've been, the three of us have been together over a year, and things has been going really, really well for the station. And more importantly, it's been going really well for our show. So thank you guys for having me on. I appreciate it, man. Anytime you can, anytime you want me on, just reach out to me. I'm glad it took some. I'm sorry it took a little time, and I was sick all last week, and Ryan and I were
all good,
going
all
back
good.
and forth, but we finally made it happen.
It's all good. He is Derrick Mason. He 5'10" in real life, but his game is like 7'5". If D-Mace was 6'4", that would be stellar. Appreciate you, D-Mace.
Nice to meet you, D. Thanks for coming on, buddy.
No problem, man. Y'all have a good one.
Appreciate it.
No problem, Ryan. Y'all have a good one.
Yes, sir.
Yep.
Yes, sir.
Yep, you too. Well, Ben, you just did a great job there with Derrick Mason and just being able to be just give him the love and the intro that he deserves from his accolades there at the time of the league. And it's just a great guest to have on here winning the division. And I'm just glad you were able to connect with one of your old teammates.
Oh, yeah, Ryan. I mean, D-Mace was the one thing I appreciate the most about D-Mace was he was him. Right. By the time I got to the Titans, he's already established himself, been to a couple Pro Bowls, first team All Pro, and he went to the Pro Bowl for two different reasons. He went for a returner, and he came back as a receiver. You know who else did that? Steve Smith. Steve Smith, the first time he went to the Pro Bowl, was a returner, and guess what? Who told him? Musa Muhammad. So you had a Michigan State Spartan, telling Steve Smith. But no, man, another great get by you, Smitty, man. Smitty, you him now. Listen, when you can get, I didn't ask D-Mace, but D-Mace has Pro Bowl numbers. Over 12,000 yards receiving, almost 1,000 catches, over 5,000 yards in the return game. You see that Devin Hester just got in as a return guy. If D-Mace don't get in, it won't be because the numbers wasn't there. It'll be because people hating. But the only player in NFL history with over 10,000 yards receiving, over 5,000 yards, in return yards. Come on, man. He's had a Hall of Fame career, both returning the ball, returning kicks and catching the rock. But hey, man, appreciate D-Mace coming through, man. He is a class act, no doubt.
Let's get to, in our time remaining here, let's knock out these transactions and headlines throughout the league. We'll start with the Eagles adding former Giants pass rusher Azeez Ojulari on a 1-year deal.
Howie Roseman is playing chess and everybody else is playing checkers. And go ahead and say it, Smitty. You said Ojulari was the guy on the outside. He wasn't.
The Panthers would benefit from his services, but instead he goes to an NFC South rival.
Listen, 1 year, he's on a prove-it deal because he's going into his 5th year. He only got 22 career sacks. Give him 1 year, 4 $4 million deal. Another Bulldog to add to the Eagles. So
Speaking of the Eagles, they rework Lane Johnson's contract to a 2-year deal, $8 million over the next 2 years, and an additional $30 million in guarantees for Lane Johnson.
Lane Johnson is one of the best left tackles in the game. I mean, depending on who you ask, Trent Williams out there with San Francisco, but congratulations, Howie Roseman is finding a way to give his best players, that upfront money, and not count against the cap like that. So once again, he's Houdini when it comes to that cap. Howie Roseman.
I think he's right tackle, by the way.
Right tackle. I'm sorry. The best right tackle in football. Trent Williams, the best left tackle in football. I apologize.
All good. Vikings released former NC State center and their longtime center in the National Football League, Garrett Bradbury.
I mean, I'm just saying, don't my Falcons need a center? Didn't we send our freaking center to freaking Chicago and Grady Jarrett? I'm letting it go. But I don't like it. I can live with the center. I can't live with Grady Jarrett. Just saying.
Former Kansas City and New Orleans St. Juan Thornhill safety 1-year deal with the Pittsburgh Steelers.
I mean, the Pittsburgh Steelers are finding a way to bring in some key guys. You're bringing in veteran guys. I know it's going to be all about DK Metcalf and different guys. Now we're just waiting to see, who's going to be throwing these guys the football. But a great addition on the 1-year deal. I mean, Micah Fitzpatrick. People always talking about Micah Parsons. Micah Fitzpatrick, he is the best free safety in football, bar none. Even though I love Harrison Smith out there with Minnesota.
D. Mace mentioned the Baltimore Ravens and Lamar as someone who would have liked to have played with if he could still choose Baltimore. And my question. Well, they just added a new quarterback to back up Lamar Jackson. That is Cooper Rush, who signed with the Baltimore Ravens.
Okay, listen, Cooper Rush found a nice landing spot, and whenever you go to the Ravens, obviously Lamar Jackson don't get hurt much. But I mean, Cooper Rush, man, he was with Dallas, right? Was he with Dallas?
Correct.
Yeah, he was with Dallas, and did his best Robin role. But he get to go from the circus, right, to a contender. So congratulations to Cooper Rush.
J.C. Horn's record-setting deal with the Panthers at cornerback money, $25 million a year, lasts all but a week as Derek Stingley is officially now the top highest-rated defensive back in the National Football League at $30 million per year.
Listen, Derek Stingley Jr., what is he? First-team All-Pro, J.C. Horn. They're both top 10 picks. Listen, I get it. I want my $30 million compared to 25. J.C. Horn, congratulations, sir. You want to go out there and make more money, keep balling the way you do. Add first-team All-Pro to your name, and 25 will go to 35 by the time you re-sign with the salary cap. But congratulations to both guys. You got a former LSU guy, former South Carolina guy. Congrats.
Let's get to the big Bengals news to kind of close things out here. Jamar Chase, T. Higgins re-signing with the Bengals. Chase, 4 years, $161 million, $112 guarantee. T. Higgins, 4-year, $115 million. The first 2 years are guaranteed on the 4-year contract. And the word is they are also trying to extend pass rusher Trey Hendrickson as well.
Whoever the GM for the Cincinnati Bengals, I give you a lot of credit because the whole thing about it is everybody kept saying Joe Burrow wants to go ahead and take less money so you can keep the band together. We were thinking that T. Higgins was going to be franchised 2 years in a row. I said to Smitty, you franchise the player to give you more time to negotiate a deal. That is a different kind of love. You got two guys. You got $200 million receivers. Now, Trey Hendrickson, Jamar Chase just led the league in catches, yards, and touchdowns. Trey Hendrickson led the league in sacks. I don't think Trey Hendrickson is going to get – well, you're going to overpay for him. And I love you, Trey. But, hey, man, they're trying to keep the band together. And that has more to do with the fact that Sam Hubbard retired. And I got to be able to bring somebody back as a staple of my defense. So, but shout out to the Bengals, T. Higgins. You know what I'm saying? Jamar Chase, Joe Burrow. You still got to play the Ravens twice.
Real quickly, this just broke. Jaguars are officially open for offers for former number 1 overall pick Travon Walker.
Travon Walker is a double-digit sack guy the last 2 years, former number 1 overall pick. Somebody, listen, I think what they're saying is because they paid Josh Allen, the other Josh Allen played defensive end, a couple of years ago, it's going to be hard to sign Travon Walker. And maybe Travon Walker has already expressed he don't want to get franchised. So you always want a player that you can get more players from. Travon Walker, I think he's, 24, 25 years old, if he's even that old yet. I mean, he going to get his money, but might still land on a contender. And anything at this point got to be better than Jacksonville. Y'all bottom feeders right now in the AFC South. There's anybody's – hey, but yeah, shout out Shout out to Daniel Jones, who will be competing for the starting quarterback job with the Indianapolis Colts, because he looked around and said, "I think I can beat out Anthony Richardson." That ain't good, Anthony Richardson. The fact that this guy think he can beat you out, but hey man, they got to be in the business of trying to add players. Maybe Liam Cohen don't see him as a guy you want to have on his team, but Travon Walker, it's gonna be some major transaction going on before the draft.
Well, I know we are up against it. I wanted to bring these last few topics your way to kind of close this out here, and it'll be another episode wrapped up here on winning the division. I'll give you the 3 topics rapid fire, and you can just kind of go to town with these 3 to close us out here. The 49ers has their Super Bowl window. Has it closed, or is this kind of this restructuring that we're seeing? You know, the Bills was last year, Rams was 2 years ago. Those heavy, some people call it, taking your medicine, if you will, with the cap, and just, you're going to offset a lot of guys in order to pay that rookie quarterback contract. So that's number 1. Number 2, I know you wanted to bring up DeMarcus Lawrence and the Seahawks, Micah with the Cowboys, that feud. That's topic number 2. We didn't really get to that, but we can bring that up here at the end if you want to go into that for a little bit. And then finally, your Falcons keeping Kirk Cousins on this roster after St. Patrick's Day today with his signing bonus.
The San Francisco 49ers, I do think their window was closing because Brock Purdy's best years was when he had his best. I mean, Trent Williams still there. No Debo Samuels. They're trying to shop Brian Ayuk. You don't understand the health of CMC right now. Fred Warner's wife is beefing, right? George Kittle's wife, I think, is beefing with the fullback. Who they let go, but they brought him back. So I think it's trouble in paradise going on in San Francisco. But do I think that window is closing? Yes, with Dre Greenlaw gone, your starting safety both went to Denver. So I think their Super Bowl window is closed. Who you said? DeMarcus Lawrence and Micah Parsons. This is why it's a circus for 2 reasons. Number 1, Micah, why would you call DeMarcus Lawrence a clown because he's telling the truth? DeMarcus Lawrence has been there for 11 years. You've been there for 4 years. And y'all not winning no Super Bowl. But to call your former teammate a clown because he's telling the truth. Now, I don't believe in kissing and telling. Look, man, that's your ex. This is your next DeMarcus. But I do like the fact that, they have learned from the best, Jerry Jones. When there is no news, we will make news by commenting on players that are no longer there. DeMarcus Lawrence can say whatever you want to say. Micah didn't have to respond. But, hey, man, it's Dallas. Like I say, circus. Not wins, just amusement. Now, my favorite cousin, Kirk Cousins got re-signed because I don't think the market was favorable to him. I don't think nobody wanted him because you're going to get a 35, 36-year-old guy who coming off an Achilles, injury just 2 years prior, and you saw him in 2024, right? People saw him, right? So, what is Kirk going to give us? Kirk best years are behind him. Kirk Cousins made $90-something million in 2024. They gave him $90-something million. They say over his career.
And I think that's the question. Do the Falcons want to keep him on their roster this year so they don't have to admit that they made a mistake, or do they want to, or are they going to ship him off or cut him and take their medicine, if you will, on that $90 million?
I mean, they're gonna have to. It took them too long to bench him for Michael Penix. They gave him money based off the market, not what he could bring, because the quarterback's going to get overpaid because of the market, different things. But you've already given them the money. Now, it's going to be interesting to see as we get close to the draft, they're going to try to make some moves. But I think a lot of free agents didn't really have, Atlanta on their radar because they know Michael for 2 reasons. One, they don't know how much money they're getting paid, but they know Michael Penix is going to be the guy. I can't come in and compete. So I don't know how many guys want to come in as a true backup. I've heard some rumblings, people saying something like Jameis Winston. Absolutely not. I'm just saying, love you, Jameis. But come on, man. Jameis Winston, Kirk Cousins. I'm going to go with Kirk. Because at least I know what I'm getting with Kirk. Now, as far as antics and sound bites, give me Jameis. As far as productivity, and we play in a dome, so you don't got to worry about the snow and all that. Hey man, we got one more. We got at least one more year with Kirk, but I hope Kirk is just like the backup when Matty Ice was there. Who was the backup? Didn't matter because he didn't play. So come on, Michael Penix. Let's focus on that health. Let's get that Matty Ice, Cam Newton thing going with that youngin down there. First name Bryce, last name Young. He lives in Charlotte, North Kakalaki. We will be seeing him twice a year.
Yes. Well, as of this recording here on Monday, St. Patty's Day, Ben, Aaron Rodgers still has not signed with the team. Do we think by the time we come on the air next week, will he be signed with somebody? Or is he going to just keep dragging his feet?
Aaron Rodgers has leverage. I don't understand why he has leverage. I mean, based off what he's done, it's not based off what he's going to do. Aaron Rodgers is dragging his feet the same way Brett Favre did when he kept saying, they used to have a commercial saying he's coming back, even though Brett Favre was going in and out of retirement. The reason why I don't want Aaron Rodgers on my team is for reasons like this. Who the hell are you? I want you to play football. Do you want to play football? Well, that depends on if they call. I'm going to wait on y'all call before they call. I'm just happy he's not a Falcon. I know you happy he's not a Carolina Panther. And every other team is not going to sign him. I want players that want to play. I don't. Aaron Rodgers wants to be two things. He wants to be famous, right? And he wants to be relevant. Well, he's relevant, but your fame is getting on my nerves. Y'all can have that, whoever get him. I don't know what y'all think he's going to do. He's been the one.
It's going to be. Looks like it's going to be the Falcons. Sorry, you had me saying the Falcons, Steelers, or the Vikings at this point. Well, he wants the Vikings to want him because come on, Kevin O'Connell, Justin Jefferson. He wants the Vikings to want him.
Yeah, but he knows if he goes to the Vikings, he's going to have to compete with a rookie to win the starting job. He don't want to do it.
And he's going to be forever, just like Favre. It took a while to earn that grace is back in Lambeau land. All right. Well, I'll end. I know those were my last topics, but because I know we're up against it. Real quickly, Daniel Jones. Do you think Daniel Jones? Do you think he's going to be the starting quarterback over Anthony Richardson next year? And if so, will he get more wins than the Giants?
He will get more wins than the Giants. I don't know if he's going to beat Anthony Richardson out in preseason because Anthony Richardson already on the offense. But if we've seen Anthony Richardson the last 2 years, do you have any confidence that Anthony Richardson is gonna not do Anthony Richardson stuff? The first thing Anthony Richardson need to work on is his conditioning because he got tired last year. Remember, said that out loud. Why he said that out loud? But who's a better player right now, Daniel Jones or Joe Flacco? I would go Daniel Jones. But Joe Flacco was playing over you. I think Daniel Jones is going to find himself a nice little resting spot, landing spot in Indy. And Anthony Richardson going to still be in the NFL because he's that type of athlete. But, yeah, I'm going to go. Daniel Jones said, out of all the quarterbacks I want to compete with, I want Anthony Richardson. Wow. We'll see, though. We'll see. Should be good theater.
Well, as we are up against it here on Winning the Division, episode 31, we want to express our big thanks to former NFL wide receiver Derrick Mason, Ben's teammate from the Tennessee Titans. Should be a Hall of Famer, as Ben said, someone who was just consistent throughout his time in the league. And we're going to have more guests like him for you on Winning the Division as we continue to chop it up with former NFL players, executives. Maybe we'll bring an agent or two on, general managers. No one's off game here Winning the Division.
If it has to do with the NFL, both current, future, former, in the first floor, in the front office, equipment man, trainers. If we decide you coming on, bring your behind on here and let's talk. Let's talk a little pigskin. Let's do it.
Well, for Ben Shrub, I am Ryan Smith. Remember, you are either winning the division or you are just in the division here on Winning the Division, episode 31. Rate, review, and subscribe. Keep Pounding Podcast Network, Fans First Sports Network, and Tobacco Road Sports Radio on YouTube. We'll see you guys next week for another edition here of Winning the Division.